Navel gazing. Just navel gazing. Welcome guys, Red Pill, Mids Watch, as per usual. I'm Ryan, you guys have heard this before. I'm releasing this one around midnight. Whenever this one comes out is when you see it, so hoping you enjoy the nice vibe that I used to have back at the Network Operations Center when I used to work in the military as the Navy on the West Coast. It was listening to the midnight CBC Radio 3 where they'd go in depth about certain books and whatever, and I'm just trying to recapture the vibe for you guys so you can see what there is to learn and know about sexual strategy and positive male identity. So this post is from a guy, Alpha Beta 49. It's about, I want to say it came out in 2015, so 7 years ago. If you notice, there's kind of a trend here. It's all 7 years ago, 6 years ago. He was kind of joined the Red Pill and the space and kind of learning stuff around the same time I did. So it was kind of neat because he had a different situation, but we'll get into that. Anyways. He just realized, I realized some things and I have a long way to go. I'm taking it easy and I'm working on me before making any life-changing decisions. About a month ago, I posted a field report and I'm doing a follow-up now to hopefully bring myself some clarity as I talk through this and also ask for feedback. So for the details for you guys, he's a 27-year-old dude. His wife's 28. They've been married for 3.5 years. They've been together for 6. They have 2 kids. And this one's kind of they're new. He's like, I'm a point above her in the SMV, but she perceives me as higher. I have a sidebar book that I still have to read. I'm lifting and I have an active social life. I cheated almost 2 years ago, which effectively installed permanent overkill dread. She operates in fear, not desire, due to that. So before I go on, I wanted to make a point here. When he talks about the bringing himself some clarity through this and asking for feedback, I think it's great, as well as the taking it easy before making life-changing decisions. The key parts for that is most guys don't know what they want. In fact, every time some guy's coming from a zeroed out situation, maybe his wife left him, his church left him, or some hardship, and then they find their way here out of pure desperation, for no other reason, and you ask them, what do you want? Because they always ask, what should I do? What should I do? It's like, well, what do you want? And nobody has an answer. The easy piecemeal value to put into them is just like you're just deferring the situation. Build up options, build up abundance for this next 12 months, and then leave those hard decisions for that guy. So at least it gives the guy a placeholder set of values until he's able to build his own, what we would call a mental point of origin, or his ability to create a worldview that's beneficial for him and not just based off the manipulation and propaganda of others. At the same time here, the thing I like about this field report is it's not a hat in hand asking for help. It's a guy going, all right, here's what I've done. Here's what I'm trying to do. Here's how it ended up. And then it gives people a feedback mechanism, which is good for multiple reasons. Like, one, if there's something you miss, somebody else is able to point it out and talk to you. At the same time, anything that affects you, there's probably going to be, in a place of like 20,000 people, any problem you could ever have, there's 500 guys that also have that problem, but either didn't articulate it or are afraid to mention it. At the same time, some guys have been through this and they fixed it, and the best way to solidify what they've learned is to teach. So between those 3 different mechanisms, the idea of a navel-gazy field report post-action is actually pretty beneficial. Continuing on here, though. So his choice is I was forced to consider what I truly wanted in life. I could stay married and raise my 3-year-old son and 1-year-old daughter while making my life as awesome as possible, hopefully improving my marriage, or I can get a divorce and fulfill all my fantasies of freedom, travel, and success and the thrill of the chase. Thoughts I came to. While my decisions were dangerous, it was the catalyst to where I am now, which is a good thing. Also, growth is painful. I know less of what I want now, but I'm happier with the fact that when I thought I knew what I wanted, I now have the freedom to dream, create, and achieve what I want. It went into a pseudo-metaphysics analysis of myself and debated aesthetism versus hedonism with people. Yeah, he kind of acknowledges, okay, that stuff was a waste of time. I have a good wife, She's not quite as shrill and tired, entitled, feminist, lazy, bitchy as most women are. Western women, sorry. She probably works harder in the stay-at-home mom job than I do at my 8 to 5. She's got a feminine appearance. She cooks delicious, made-from-scratch meals. She works very hard to respect me and my decisions. And he's like, I even make it difficult sometimes. Leaving her would be a huge blow to her honor as well as mine. And this is assuming my honor is important. I'm still working on that. I spoke with a family lawyer. Divorce would be financially feasible for me. She has income potential that is much higher than my current income. And court-mandated divorce rape is unlikely, although hell hath no fury, so I'm not assuming anything. The grass is not always greener on the other side of the fence. I don't want to get a divorce only to realize that marriage was better because it forced me to work harder on myself, or that I would give anything to have my kids and family back together again. I tried rationalizing that my kids would be okay, that my hamster bench pressing its own body weight, I couldn't handle the strain. I love them to death. I want to create a new legacy for future generations, yada, yada, yada. And then I was high on emotions in my last thread. Since calming down, I'm taking a long time to decide whether I want to divorce or not. Hell, I'm going to take the rest of my life to decide, but it'll always be on the back burner. I will constantly be reevaluating my marriage to see, if I'm doing my part, if she's doing her part, if the marriage is better than singledom, and, take one itis and dump it out in the back. So since I've last posted, I'm much more easygoing. I brought a project motorcycle. I'm disciplining myself to finish the home gym project. I'm doing 5x5 on the regular. Made weekly time to play a team sport. She and the kids come watch if they want.
Ian, not Ryan Stone. I think he's the most important guy in the world. Ryan Stone. Give a fuck about Ryan Stone. Me and him have gone back and forth. Blah, blah, blah. Ryan Stone does not pass the 6-foot test. He's not even a man. So I don't give a fuck with Ryan Stone.
One fantastic result, she's initiated sex more than I have in the last month. So overall, I'm young and still don't have things worked out. I'm in no place to objectively decide whether she adds value to my life because I'm not adding as much value as I can to my own life, much less to hers. So I was all, I haven't been lifting, I haven't read the sidebar, and I struggle with things like OI and stoicism. Should I leave my wife and get some strange even though my wife is awesome? It's like, I can see my hamster running clearly. So shout out to all the other guys. Before I get into Jack's takedown of this thing, the part that I love about it is there's a common trope, and it's common because I made it common, of the 28-year-old life coaches you see online that are rambling about what you need to do. They're full of piss and vinegar and bravado, and this guy was absolutely one of them. His wife wasn't putting out, so he went and cheated on her, get some validation from somewhere else. He got caught, his words. She had a huge temper tantrum, basically turned him into a supplicative chump. And then that kind of ruined their marriage. And that's when he found his way here, kind of came to terms with it. Now, there's a whole bunch of material on this, like, don't apologize for that. If she forgives you, she doesn't get to bring it up again. Don't confess things just to put the guilt on the other person to forgive you for. Sometimes it's better just to be discreet. And if you feel guilty, you shouldn't do the things either. But I'm not here to talk about all that stuff. The part that I like is he tried all the standard things everybody else does. He tried learning stoicism. He tried to talk about hedonism and all the building the legacy and all that, traditional conservative mindset crap. And by the end of his journey, which I don't know if it's articulated fully in this post, but by the end of the journey, he realized that's all just masturbation. It doesn't solve anything. It's just there so I can have some emotional feel good about what I'm actually doing is higher than just the emotionality of a young man with lots of testosterone running through him. Turns out he's just, jerking off about his brain and how smart he was. And he kind of came to terms with that, and he's calmed down. If I remember correctly, too, he did stick around with his wife. His wife stepped up. She was doing great. He realized, actually, I'm happy. It's fine. It was just this fear of missing out, but then not really missing out, so. But that's future. So in the past here, in your last thread, and this is from Jack Ten of Hearts, prolific poster. You guys may remember him from such threads as every other Midswatch other than this one. In your last thread, you talked about your honor, and I think it's painfully clear to me that your issues aren't your sense of honor, but holding yourself to a standard of honor and then inconsistently following through. And he's going to bring up some quotes. I'm not going to give you the entire last post because it's a think it's a fairly long one too, if I looked it up. Yeah. Yeah, at this point it would just be for like the rubbernecking into his thing, but the quotes make sense. So the quote he used here is, "I'm not using birth control because we should really stop having premarital sex." That was how he had his first kid, by the way. So this is what I mean. Your sense of honor says we shouldn't have premarital sex, and I'm going to assume because that's a religion. So if you actually abstained from premarital sex, you would have knocked her up. If you let go of this sense of honor, then you would have bagged it up, and you also wouldn't have knocked her up. The next quote is, marrying the same girl who right before I was about to break up with her got pregnant. This one hits close to home. I don't know if I've had friends that had this. They were plated to a girl. The one I'm thinking of, and I don't want to give his name, but he was dating a few girls. One was kind of crazy. The other one was like a 34-year-old Quebec girl. And after they broke up, he got drunk one night at the bar, went to her place, they smashed. She got pregnant. And obviously, like 34, she's like, "No, I'm keeping this. This is it. This is my shot." And then he's like, "Well, I got to do the honorable thing and stick around." And it's like, you know what? At this point, it just kind of sad. But I'm sure everybody else kind of knows their own version of this story. So yeah, the honor is really about guys who want to sacrifice themselves to feel good, but it never tends to work out. And he goes, yeah, but anyways, Jack's like, yeah, marrying her, got her pregnant. So same stuff here. Your sense of honor dictates that you need to marry a woman instead of having a child out of wedlock. Fine, sure. But then you cheated on her. Now, if you had wifed her up, found contentment in your decision to do so, and focused your efforts on yourself and marriage, then I think your marriage would be in a much better place. If you had said, F this, I'll take responsibility for the child, but I'm not getting married, then you could now have a life where you could screw all the fat women on Craigslist you want without marital consequences. Yes, that's a very specific example. Don't worry about it. The next quote is where he talks about how he went to the pseudo-metaphysical analysis of himself, debated aesthetism versus hedonism, and don't correct me in the chat if I get the definition wrong or the pronunciation wrong. I don't care. I don't. So back to this one. It's like, look, dude, I don't know which one is better, but I do think you should pick one and accept the consequences. Based on everything I've read about you, I would make the argument that your lack of consistency about this is the root cause of pretty much all your problems. You are not owning your shit. You decide to own your shit one way and then doubt it in the best way, so you try and own your shit both ways, which is really not owning your shit. You mentioned in one of your threads about being somewhat disenchanted with your job, unmotivated, coming into work late, but then getting written up by your boss as a result. And this is the kind of stuff that I mean. If your job sucks, find another one and quit. But while you're still at your current job, you may as well do a good job, right? I mean, what do you have to lose by doing good work at whatever job you currently have? Investing in something that may be a lost cause? Well, how will you know if it's a lost cause because your job objectively sucks, or because it's a lost cause because you're lazy and not motivated and not making the most out of it? You'll never know unless you try. So part of why you have so much trouble evaluating can I do better than my current situation is you've never tried to maximize your current situation, which makes evaluation impossible because you have no good baseline of comparison. You've never been able to tell yourself, I tried really hard to do this one thing, but it's not turning out the way I'd like. I'm going to explore different alternatives and be confident in evaluating whether they are better options. You're always questioning whether your situation objectively sucks, or if it sucks because you're not investing and making it not suck. Anyways, I say this because I'm almost 45, and you pretty much sound exactly like I did when I was in my 20s and early 30s. In my case, I eventually saw a therapist a few years after my divorce who pointed out that I basically had this pattern of self-destructive behavior. My complete inability to commit and follow through on anything was crippling anything I ever tried to do in my life. Anytime I saw two doors side by side, I always tried to walk through both at the same time. Suffice to say, you do not get very far through either doorway when you're doing that. The good news is you can, retrain your mind to stop this behavior. Now for Jack, for me, my main mental breakthrough was that I realized everything is just a function of applied effort and time. And the corollary was this: I have failed at everything I stopped giving a shit about. And I'm emphasis mine here. I have failed at everything I ever stopped giving a shit about. It seems so self-evident, but to me, it really wasn't. I didn't always succeed at the things I gave a shit about, but I always failed at the things I didn't give a shit about. Now, hopefully, it won't take you too long to realize the same. Now, he and Alpha Beta go into it a few more times. Essentially nails it, though. 100% nails it. There's a reason that you guys have heard me talking on this channel, and if not, I suggest you follow it. But there's a few things you've seen. I've already talked before about the first 2 points, right? Where you make that deal with yourself in a year, build yourself abundance, let that guy decide what he wants. That's generally speaking good for guys who don't have any direction and have never had to describe their own direction. Same thing as the second one, but the one I wanted to focus on here is that line. I'm probably going to make it the title of this video because it's just so damn good. Guys don't try to maximize their current situation. They're so afraid of making the wrong decision, or they don't actually want what they think they want. And so when they go after what they say they want, their actual desires for something else, but they refuse to commit to either option, and then both get done half-assed. And you never know. I think that's the worst part. It's not that you fail at something, or it's not that you succeed at something. It's that you never know if it was a good idea or not. And I know a lot of guys won't make decisions because they're afraid it's going to be the wrong choice, but the only way to know is to commit to it. You can quit later. Like I said, if your marriage isn't working for you, you can leave. If your marriage isn't working for you, but you want to stick together with the kids, you can go, sleep around on the side. There's no legal ramifications against that. And your wife can leave you for any reason or no reason at all. So it's not like that Damocles sword is being held over your head. But, and this is a big but, if you decide something, you have to own it. Own it, follow through, be consistent, be aware of and accept the consequences. It seems so radical just to accept that. Hey, bad things could happen from this, but the good reasons outweigh the bad, or you didn't know about the bad ones and you're going to take this opportunity to learn. Doesn't really matter. So for when you are running through your own male action plan, just think back to this guy. Don't navel gaze about, do you want to be hedonistic? I'm sure if you're on Twitter or YouTube for any length of time listening to red-pilled content creators, whatever the hell that means nowadays, because apparently it's just yelling at women. They're trying to tell you all these values. They're trying to use very smart intellectual terms. They're talking about Nietzsche and all these other guys, and just ignore all that crap. All that is another buffer. That's a guy trying to walk through 2 doors at the same time, and he wonders why he keeps banging his dick into the corner jamb. Don't be that guy. Make a decision. Own it. Is it the wrong decision? Is it the right decision? I guess you'll find out, but don't worry. At least you'll know by the end of it, and you can always change your mind later. That's Assertive Bill of Rights 101. You are allowed to change your mind, and nobody can tell you otherwise. And yes, even on these serious things, even when it comes to, do I stick together with my wife? Do I leave her and the kids? These are all choices you have to make. That's not very moral, is it? I guess it's not, but that's the whole point of Red Pill. It was never meant to be a moral space. Let your church handle that. Let your politicians handle that. Let your family handle that. You bring your own morals to the table. This place is just about the how. So now, if you have some moral squeamishness about leaving your wife, don't leave her. But then own the fact that you're not leaving her and put your all into what you got now. If you don't have those kind of morals, then go ahead, leave her if you want to, but don't stick around, sleep around, and then tell her to absolve your guilt. It's like, no, you made that choice, so you better learn some discretion. And I can give you examples of this all over the place, but just realize, every time I see a guy in his late 20s talking about how red-pilled he is and that, I just think back to this. And I remember, all right, that's what everybody's like when they're 29 and they know everything. You can't tell them what's up. They just haven't had enough experience to understand the idea that experience is more valuable than 800 hours of just thinking about it. So take that with you, enjoy it, or don't. Do what you want. I'll catch you guys on the next one, though. Cheers.